What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we've got to talk about something that I find to be a little bit unbelievable that's going on with sundial stock and the stock market. All right, it's really disappointing. Unfortunately, a lot of people are making a big mistake regarding sundial stock, I think, and some stocks in general. All right, we're first going to talk about why a lot of these stocks, sundial included, are falling, and then we're going to talk about why I think selling them is a mistake because shorts are up to some tricky business, all right? It's not necessarily no good, but they're up to some tricky business, all right? We're going to take a look at the short interest and see what's going on with it and the big mistake that people are making and why I think they're making this mistake. So first off, obviously, stocks in general have been falling as of late, right? Sundial being one of them. It's actually down more than most stocks. Cannabis stocks have their own reasons for falling that we're going to talk about. But first things first, the Fed plans to shrink their balance sheet by $95 billion a month, all right? This was announced a couple of days ago. It has the stock market really worried, right? Mostly growth stocks have been falling over the past couple of days. You can see that they haven't been doing too well since this news broke, right? Growth stocks, this is the Russells, have been falling pretty significantly. Sundial has also been falling pretty significantly, also for its own reasons, right? We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to dispel a little bit of the fear surrounding this balance sheet shrinking, right? So first off, the rate that they're going to be shrinking the balance sheet at, you can see this is the Fed's balance sheet and how it's increased since 2002. It's been just, pretty much going up all the time. There has been some stagnation for a period of years when the stock market actually did fairly well. And you can actually see that more recently, we've been skyrocketing with the balance sheet, right? The balance sheet has just been growing to monumental levels. And I actually did some of the math and figured out how much is this balance sheet shrinkage going to account for on this overall balance sheet, right? What are they actually talking about? Well, over the course of the next year, they actually will only be shrinking the balance sheet to around this point right here. So there's about a year before we get back to where we were a year ago, back in April of 2021. So all in all, this balance sheet shrinkage is hardly undoing a lot of the purchases that the Fed has engaged in. Overall, it's probably not going to be super impactful. Obviously, it won't be great for stocks and for anything that benefits from having added liquidity, but it won't actually be a horrible thing. It's not like we'll be worse off than we were a year ago. We'll be in the exact same spot that we were a year ago, and stocks were doing decently. So I'm overall not too worried about this balance sheet shrinking, right? There's also a ton of additional liquidity that was added to the market in other ways in the form of stimulus checks and whatnot. So overall, I'm not very worried about this. Now, second thing that we need to talk about is why cannabis stocks are falling, right? Why are cannabis stocks specifically falling? Sundial is down 6% today. Tilray is down 9%, even though they had a great earnings call yesterday. A lot of cannabis stocks are down in pretty big ways. Clover is down almost 10% on the day. So the reason that a lot of these stocks are falling, in addition to what's going on with the market, obviously, these are more growth-oriented stocks, and when the market's moving down, they're going to move down a little bit more than the overall market. They're also smaller market cap stocks. They're going to move down a little bit more than that. But one of the main reasons why cannabis stocks in particular are falling is because they were recently pumped up due to a bunch of hype that cannabis legalization bill had been passed in the House. And you can actually see that right here. You can see Sundial pumped up quite a bit. And now it's falling as it looks like that bill will likely not be going through the Senate, right? It's looking more and more like that bill specifically isn't going to be going through the Senate. But all things considered, that is not the biggest worry, right? My initial thought was not that that bill was going to be the bill that was getting through the House and the Senate and getting to the president's desk, right? It was relatively unpopular among Republicans when they put that to a vote. And overall, it was not even my favorite bill, right? It wasn't even the cannabis legalization bill that I would have proposed myself if I were to propose one. It was a little bit more on the decriminalization side than the full-on legalization side, and the taxes were somewhat high, I believe around 8% on cannabis products at the federal level. And all in all, it wasn't the most friendly bill, right? I think that what people are actually aiming for, and some of the reasons why people are less supportive of this bill than they were of past iterations of this bill, is actually because it's a little bit harsher towards cannabis. I think people are looking for something a little bit more cannabis friendly than the bill that did just pass. Now, we're going to talk about what's been going on with Sundial's price, right? It has been moving down. A lot of people have actually been selling, and I think it's a big mistake. And one indication that it's a massive mistake is actually the short interest. If you look at the short interest for Sundial stock, you can see, once this thing loads, that the short interest is actually falling quite dramatically over the past couple of days. Right here, you can see the short interest falling quite dramatically, and if we zoom in, it becomes a little bit more apparent that shorts are fleeing sundial stock. In fact, 2% of shorts today alone have actually exited sundial stock. And they're doing this all the while the price is moving down, right? So a lot of obviously retail and potential other institutional investors are selling the stock, right, on news that it's looking unlikely that the cannabis legalization bill is going to pass the Senate. But all the while, shorts are actually covering their positions, right? They're worried now that there is big potential that in the near future, sundial could be pumping up and pumping up for real because of actual cannabis legalization. And one such instance of that is the bill that Chuck Schumer is planning to introduce later this month, right? Chuck Schumer is going to talk to Republicans and see what they want in this bill. So it will actually, in my opinion, have a much better chance of passing the House and the Senate than the initial bill that did just pass the House a couple of days ago had, right? Because Chuck Schumer's already going to be doing a lot of the footwork. He's going to figure out what the Republicans want, and he already knows what Democrats want, right? He is a Democrat himself. So all in all, this bill seems like it has a much larger chance of passing the House and the Senate than the bill that we had previously. So all things considered, this is looking like a very good situation. And we're supposed to get this later this month, and it's almost disgusting to see, right, that a lot of people are selling off these cannabis stocks right before a potential big pump and allowing all of these shorts to get out of their short positions and start buying up shares of sundial stock and others, right? Just right before what's potentially a massive pump, right? It's looking like, a lot of people could potentially be making a big mistake. Obviously, it's not financial advice that I'm not telling people to, buy up sundial stock or telling people to hold their stock if they don't want to. Everyone has to make their own choice, but in my personal opinion, it seems like a big mistake for people to be selling right before potential huge catalysts that we've got coming out, as well as watching shorts cover their positions right before, right? Obviously, shorts are worried. They know that there is big potential for these stocks to be pumping up in the near future, and it looks like they're just trading shares with retail holders. That's what it's looking like, right? Retail holders are potentially getting scared, seeing a couple of red days in a row and a big decrease in sundial stock price. But I will point out that it is nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, it's not even down as much as sundial had been moving down right before a real massive pump, right? There were several big pumps up in sundial stock, followed by several pullbacks, very significant pullbacks. I mean, the initial pump up from 13 cents to 60 cents that it pulled back about 57%. And then it pumped up to around 93 cents and pulled back 53% from that. And this was all before it had gotten to $4, right? So sundial, as of right now, from the highs to where it's at, has only pulled back 33%. It's not even as significant as a pullback as what it saw prior to the other big pump that we saw with sundial stock. So all in all, I think it's a bit of a mistake for people to be selling. Just my personal opinion, not a recommendation or anything, just what I think about the situation, right? I don't think it's a good thing to be doing, but that's just what I'm thinking at the moment. So there are some other things that we've got to talk about, right? So obviously, cannabis legalization in the United States is a big deal, and we will look at this right here. Alcana, sundial just acquired them. This is obviously very good for sundial stock at a fundamental level, but also in terms of cannabis legalization in the US, because Alcana operates 300 retail locations, some of which, not many of which, about 4, I believe, are operated in Alaska and Kentucky, okay? 2 US states. So sundial now owns part of a company, or owns a company that operates in the United States already. And obviously, it's an alcohol company. These are alcohol retail locations. It's not that they operate cannabis retail locations in the United States, but it is an infrastructure that's pre-existing, and it does allow them to have some strategic relationships in the retail space, at least, right? I would assume that retail locations for alcohol and retail locations for cannabis need some of the same things, right? They need marketing teams, they need maybe some local accountants, and they probably need some people who can build up the shops, right? Who can do some renovations and whatnot. So obviously, they've already got some infrastructure on that front with Alcana. So obviously, that's a benefit for cannabis legalization in the United States regarding sundial stock, right? They would just benefit from it even more because now they already have an existing presence. So all things considered, things are looking pretty good for sundial. I think it's a big mistake to be selling shares right now. I think that a lot of people are unfortunately falling into the trap, and potentially some people are just doing it to trade. Some people want to try to sell and then buy back maybe 5-10% lower. And that's a game you can play. Overall, I just much prefer to buy a stock and let it run up a couple 100% and experience the volatility along the way. It doesn't really bother me that much. I'm not too worried about it. As long as the main catalysts that I'm expecting to pump something up haven't actually played out yet, I'm very content just holding it. So that's what I've got to say about sundial. This video is already a little bit longer than I intended on it being, and we didn't even cover all of the info, but I'll get to that in another video. I tried to keep these under 10 minutes, and we just broke that line right there. So other than that, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Keep in mind, none of this is financial advice. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and bye.